Your refrigerator is a single point of failure. You built your entire food supply around a machine that dies the moment the grid does. And the grid does die. Ask anyone who lived through the Texas freeze or watched a hurricane take the power for 9 days. The moment that compressor goes silent, the clock starts, 48 hours, and the meat turns, the milk sours, the insulin warms, and you are standing at an open door, throwing away the thing that was supposed to keep your family alive. Now here is what nobody wants you to sit with. Your great-grandmother fed a family of 6 through a world war, with no refrigerator at all, not for a weekend. For years, with no power at all. Welcome to the Survival Research. If you have not subscribed yet, hit subscribe and the bell. This is where we dig up the knowledge the convenience industry buried. She had no generator, no freezer humming in the garage. She had chemistry, physics, and knowledge that got erased the day the appliance salesman knocked on the door. Because here is the quiet truth about the last 70 years. An entire industry was built on one idea, that you should depend on a powered box to keep food alive. The refrigerator was not sold to you as a convenience. It was sold as the only option, and the methods that fed humanity for 10,000 years before it got relabeled as primitive. Old-fashioned. Not worth teaching. So nobody taught them. Your mother never learned them, and neither did you. And now an entire generation cannot keep an egg edible without electricity. That is not progress. It is engineered helplessness. Stop for a moment. What you're watching is a fraction of what I found. In the complete survival research documentation, I reconstructed the 3 systems that kept families fed through total grid failure. The exact waterglass method that keeps an egg edible for 1 full year without power. The precise ratio your great-grandmother used. The clamp storage system that holds potatoes, carrots, and beets through an entire winter, using nothing but straw and soil. And the fat rendering process that turns a pound of trimmings into shelf-stable cooking fat. Months on a shelf, no cold at all. The complete documentation, step by step, permanently. The link is in the first line of the description and pinned in the comments. But stay with me. The most important method is still ahead. Still here? Then you already understand more about real food security than almost anyone you know. Subscribe and share this with someone who still thinks a power outage is a minor inconvenience. Everything the convenience industry erased is in the complete documentation. Link in the description. Now stay with me, because this next part changes how you see your whole kitchen. Let me show you the first one, because the science behind it is almost unbelievable. An eggshell is not a solid wall. Under a microscope, it is covered in thousands of microscopic pores, 7,000 to 17,000 of them on a single shell. Those pores let the egg breathe. They also let bacteria walk in and water walk out. A fresh egg has a natural defense, a thin protein coating called the bloom, or the cuticle. It plugs those pores like wax in a bottle, but it breaks down over days. So they sealed the pores themselves with a solution called waterglass. The chemical name is sodium silicate. You can still buy it at any hardware store for a few dollars. Mixed roughly 1 part waterglass to 9 parts, cooled boiled water. It forms a thin liquid that coats every shell. The egg goes in pointed end down, fully submerged in a crock or bucket. The silicate settles into every pore and seals it shut. No air in, no moisture out, no bacteria. The egg waits 6 months, a year. Eggs preserved this way in the war were still eaten a full year later. There is one rule that makes or breaks it. The eggs must be unwashed, the natural bloom still on the shell. A washed supermarket egg has already lost its first defense. This is why the method works in a hen house and fails in a grocery aisle. It was never primitive. It was precise. Now think what that means. A bucket in a cool room. A few dollars of a chemical you can buy anywhere and 4 dozen eggs that outlast any blackout. No power, no fuel, no moving parts to fail. That is what got erased. Now the second system, and this one feeds you through the cold months. Before basements had freezers, they had the clamp. A simple pyramid of root vegetables built directly on the ground. You start with a bed of dry straw. Then you pile potatoes, carrots, beets, and turnips into a mound about 1 meter high. You cover the whole pile in a thick layer of straw, then a layer of soil over the top. It sounds like magic, but it is pure physics. The damp straw begins a slow decomposition. That decomposition releases just enough heat to keep the inside of the clamp above freezing. Even in a hard winter, the core never freezes. The straw insulates, the soil blocks frost, the decomposition warms. 3 forces. No thermostat, no electricity. You open one end, take what you need, seal it again. A clamp built in autumn feeds a household until spring. The old farmer's almanac still documents this. It was standard practice across an entire continent during the war, and almost nobody alive today could build one. Now the third system, the one most people get dangerously wrong, fat. When you render animal fat properly, you are not just making cooking grease. You're making one of the most shelf-stable calorie sources there is. The process is simple. You melt the fat low and slow. You cook off every trace of water and protein. What remains is pure fat. And pure fat does not spoil quickly. The thing that makes food rot, water, and microbes has been driven out. Properly rendered tallow holds for months at room temperature. Some keeps for a year or more in a cool, dark place, sealed from air. The enemy is oxygen, which slowly turns fat rancid. So you seal it tight, keep it cold and dark, and it waits. A single afternoon of rendering turns, scraps the butcher throws away into months of cooking fat and emergency calories. No refrigeration required, ever. Now let me be honest with you, because honesty is the whole point. These methods are not magic. Waterglass eggs work for baking and cooking, not a delicate fried egg, and only with unwashed eggs. A clamp fails in regions with brutal hard winters where the frost drives too deep. Rendered fat still goes rancid eventually if you let air and warmth reach it. None of this replaces good sense or basic hygiene. What it replaces is the lie that you cannot keep food alive without a machine. Because look at the pattern. 3 systems. None need power, fuel, or a supply chain. Eggs, vegetables, fat, protein, carbohydrates, calories. A complete food supply preserved by chemistry your family understood and then forgot. The refrigerator did not just change your kitchen. It made you forget the kitchen ever worked without it. The 3 systems I could not fully fit here are documented in full. The exact water glass ratio, the complete clamp blueprint, the fat rendering process, all of it pinned below. So here's your choice. You can keep trusting the machine. You can keep betting your family on a compressor and a power line you do not control. You can keep believing the next outage will be short, that help will come, that the food will hold. Or you can learn the 3 systems that never needed power, fuel, or a single moving part. The systems that fed your great-grandmother through years of war. If this opened your eyes, subscribe and share it with someone who still believes the grid will always be there. The knowledge did not die. It was buried. Now you know where to dig.